Hello and welcome to this Oklahoma SHPO Lunch and Learn presentation. I'm Christina Wyckoff, the historical archaeologist at the Oklahoma State Historic Preservation Office. And today it is my great pleasure to welcome Doris Youngblood. Doris is a retired federal project manager, and her last assignment was at the U.S. Pentagon overseeing new software development projects. Doris and her husband Marq purchased and began preserving Dr. W.H. Slaughter's home in 2013. After researching the Slaughter's family history, they worked to place this home on the National Register of Historic Places. Doris hosts events at the Slaughter's home and shares the important family history through exhibits and storytelling. And Doris's presentation today is Preserving Slaughter's Mansion and Family Legacy. Thank you, Doris.
Thank you, Christina. Good afternoon, everyone. It is so wonderful of the SHPO to allow me to discuss and explore the opportunity to share the things that we do at Dr. Slaughter's mansion to preserve his mansion and his family legacy. I want to thank especially Christina Wyckoff and also Linda Ozon for this invitation and the work that they've put in with me to get here. So let's get started. We're talking about preserving Dr. Slaughter's mansion and his family legacy. Next slide. I'm going to focus on a few topics that I felt were important with the work that we are doing at Slaughter's Mansion. Rehabilitation and reuse is basically a major for us in preserving the home. Also, preserving the legacy. We're going to talk about the family story, how we do community engagement, how important stewardship is, and also the importance of the partners that work with us. Let's talk about rehabilitation. In 1937, Dr. Slaughter was a semi-retired physician, and he built the mansion, the Slaughter Mansion, in what was a rural settlement in North Oklahoma City. And fortunately, this was an opportunity for him to do a lot of expansion in that area. He started out with 40 acres building his retirement home. And the settlement that he was in was not restricted by segregation. So it was a community surrounding his mansion that was various races. The Slaughters operated the property as a small farm, and the area east of the home with the original stone and barbecue pit was used for community gatherings. We've had lots of folks come by the mansion and tell us their stories about being on that, probably about a half acre of land during the 4th of July and for other cookouts and events. Beside the home, there is a tank house. Now, the tank house has been in preservation for, I would say, about 2 years. It was about 30 foot tall, and the rocks began to drop from the top. And so the top of that structure has been taken off for safety, but we do have plans to preserve that space. There's also, besides the house, a structure that from the grandson coming to visit, we found was a stone chicken house. And so that also is in preservation. We have placed a new roof on it. And when we purchased Dr. Slaughter's home, it was in, I would say, pretty bad shape. The thing that we wanted most was to make sure that the structure was sound. So we hired Metro Engineering, and they did a structural assessment for us. And as amateur preservationists, we thought, things were looking pretty good when we purchased the home in 2013. After the engineering's report, there was quite a bit of termite damage to the structure. Joists had been eaten, as you can see by the picture, that had to most definitely be replaced. There was a wet basement, and the home was covered in vines on the exterior that the engineer told us that they just had to come off. And so Marq is the co-owner with me, and that's my spouse. And he was my hero because he took care of most of these structural problems, even clearing the vines around the house and on the home by hand, along with a friend. So we did have quite a bit of work to do. And as I said, that we are amateurs, and we had a lot of questions once we found these issues, and especially with the termites. There were several areas that had been eaten away. And one of the things that always sticks in my mind when I talk about how there was so much termite damage is when Marq and I were discussing what to do about the termite damage on the floor in front of the entrance door. And I went to lean against it with my hand, and my fingers went through the door. So I found that, okay, looks can be deceiving when it comes to termites. So we eventually had to tear out that entire entrance, and we did our best to replicate what was there. So as you see in the photo, you can see us standing there in front of what was reconstructed, because that was all eaten by termites. I am also wanting to point out that the picture that you're looking at the top is us putting up a plaque. We went and asked for some help from the SHPO and from Preservation Oklahoma to find out how we could get Dr. Slaughter's mansion on the register. And so we began in 2016, and by 2018, we were able to get the home placed on the register. Looking at reuse, to Marq and I, this was a very important discussion because we know that finding a good reuse for historical property helps to sustain the home, and it also adds value to the property. So for us, the opportunity to reuse this historical home was appealing really from the very beginning. When we purchased the slaughterhouse, our plans were to continue as a bed and breakfast. And we named the bed and breakfast the mansion. And we've had several discussions with people asking why the mansion and why not Slaughter's mansion. And we both felt potential guests would be a little reluctant to book an overnight stay at a place that was called a Slaughter's Mansion. So we carried on, and in 2015, we became familiar with Airbnb and decided to turn from an actual bed and breakfast, I should say a traditional bed and breakfast, and began using Airbnb because they had taken over a huge portion of the bed and breakfast business. And so we began renting and through Airbnb and using their platform to do so. And with the home's unique architecture, we were forever more getting questions about being able to use the home for events, for weddings, for birthday parties, and also using the outdoor space. So we put together a few packages and some rules and regulations, and we began hosting events. Also, we had organizations and politicians that asked if they could host their political kickoffs there. We've had small business meetings, day retreats, and also nonprofits that have come to meet there at the mansion. And most of this happened without even, a great effort on our part. They just saw the home and how it stands there as just, a fantastic monument made of Oklahoma red stone. You can't miss it. And it is just a very drawing and a beautiful structure. We'll go to the next slide. I think I went one too many. All right. We're here at preserving Dr. Slaughter's legacy. The family story that we preserve is not only Dr. and Mrs. Slaughter's legacy. We can't talk about their family legacy without including the Randolphs and the Finleys. As you see, there's a picture of Dr. Slaughter. He is actually on a horse in front of the home. As I said, the home and the property were a small farm, and Dr. Slaughter evidently loved horses because there was a story in the Oklahoman years back about him having an injury with his horse and buggy. And the two, what people view as garages on the property, were actual stables that have been made into garages. And this photo that you see of Mrs. Slaughter, who graduated from Walden University with a normal degree, she is receiving a award from the American Legion for her assistance and donations. On the bottom photo, that is a photo of the Slaughter building, which was in Deep Deuce. And one of the things that you'll discover about the Slaughters is that they were quite a force in the Oklahoma City Black community. Dr. Slaughter built probably 90% of the buildings, and I should say he built and financed 90% of the buildings in Deep Deuce. His building was the tallest building there. It was 3 stories, and it was a mixed-use building. It housed doctors and dentists, pharmacists, lawyers, business. I could just probably go on and on. When African Americans needed a library, the Dunbar Library was started in a room there in Dr. Slaughter's building. Also, whenever you look at what was going on in that time, I want to remind us that the Randolphs, Mrs. Slaughter's family, they came to Oklahoma in 1889, and they were part of that big group that migrated here to have land ownership and just, opportunity. So she was here early on, and her family came here from Tennessee. J.D. Randolph, her father, was the first Black school teacher in Oklahoma City, and he also started the first two-room school for Blacks in Oklahoma City, which eventually became Douglas High School. In 1903 is when Dr. Slaughter arrived here, and he attended Meharry Medical School in Tennessee. And after he graduated, he came to Oklahoma to begin his practice. And a great story was told in his obituary about how when he arrived here in Oklahoma City, he had 25 cents left after, I believe he said 25 cents and his horse and buggy, after he paid for his room and board. So for him to amass the amount of property that he did during his time in Oklahoma is pretty amazing. He was known to be one of the largest landowners in Oklahoma City. And also, he owned his own airport, which was located on Northeast 63rd Street. And you can still see some parts of the runway there. It is now a construction company's property, but that is actually where his airport was located. In 1907, Edna Randolph-Slaughter and Dr. Slaughter were married, and they married 7 days before statehood. Again, the Slaughters had so much before them, and they built so much. Mrs. Slaughter was actually at the Slaughter Building, the proprietor for a pharmacy called Cove Drug there on the first floor. Eventually, that pharmacy became Randolph Drug, which is known for its soda fountain and soda jerks, and it was a place for gathering that was later on in years owned by J.D. Randolph and his family. In 1921 is when Dr. Slaughter built his building. And it amazes me because if you know anything about Oklahoma Black history, that's the same year that the Tulsa massacre happened. And so for him to be building, I'm just thinking, wow, this is pretty awesome. He had to have news of what was going on, but continued and built his 3-story building in Deep Deuce. The Slaughters were tied to the Finleys by Dr. Slaughter's daughter, Soretta, marrying Dr. Finley. A lot of people in Oklahoma remember Dr. Finley because he practiced in Deep Deuce in Oklahoma City for 62 years. When Dr. Slaughter decided to build his mansion in 1937, Dr. Finley and his daughter, Soretta, had married in 1935 and moved to Ohio, where the family had started a practice, or Dr. Finley had started his practice. So Dr. Slaughter requested and asked Dr. Finley if he would come to Oklahoma to take over his practice, and he did. So Dr. Finley, who was a great physician, and many people are aware of Dr. Finley, and I know that he was my grandmother's physician, and he took great care of her. I remember whenever I had my driver's license, my grandmother needed to go to Dr. Finley's office. I took her there, and Dr. Finley did not get in a hurry with any of his patients. So many times I was told by other patients, you would sit there for at least an hour while he examined another patient, even though he had an appointment. And actually, I don't even believe that he went by any appointments. But that is how the Finleys are connected to the Slaughters. We at the mansion strive to do a lot of community engagement, and we have had colored memories there that was curated by the Coltrane Group. Last year, we had almost 300 people come through to view our open house and to look at this exhibit. We love when young people or children come and tour the mansion. The picture that you see above are scholars from Thelma Park's school in Oklahoma City. And as I said, we give tours and use the pictures that we have received from the Oklahoma History Center. Thank you, Larry. They have been so kind to us to make sure that we have any of the materials that will help us tell the story of the Slaughters, the Randolph and Finleys. And the photos that you see with me at the top of the stairs talking about the family while giving a tour were products of the History Center. And I'm very grateful for that. We have also had community engagement as far as discussions and dinners. We have just made sure that the community knows that this is a place where they're welcome and that they can come and take part of the history and the historical home. So we do have one coming up, an event coming up. The Black History event is going to be just wonderful because we're having the Scissortail Quilters Guild bring in African American quilt exhibits. And so all of you that are here at the webinar, you're very welcome to come and see for yourself what a wonderful home Dr. Slaughter built, and also to take part in the quilt exhibit and the open house. So that is just something that especially Marq and I think that is just very crucial for parts of this preservation of the home. There has just been no way for us to separate preserving the physical home and preserving the family legacy. They are bound. And so whenever we talk about the home, we take in consideration what used to go on there as far as community-wise. And as you heard me say at the beginning, the Slaughters were all about the community. They were great civic leaders, engaging with the community in areas as far as the YMCA that was used to be called the Black YMCA because we weren't able to be admitted into the YMCA downtown. Dr. Slaughter was the chairman of the board to make sure that that YMCA was built for the community. And I think that it's called the Harriet B. Foster Center now and is beginning to be turned over into a new use there. But that building is still there on Northeast 4th Street. The community engagement that Mrs. Slaughter had with Girl Scouts, and she was mentioned in 1956 in the Jet magazine as hosting a award cookout for the Jack and Jill Club. So they were very much involved in the community. We have tried to make sure that we mirror that. And we have had a host of events. I'm going to talk about stewardship now. We really believe that saving this historic place is important. As we all know, for some times, the African American historic homes or places, the legacy and contributions weren't recognized and they weren't preserved until recent years. And so these structures weren't valued. So Marq and I feel that it is up to us to be good stewards of this property and to make sure that the not only the community, but also people in Oklahoma know that this place is of value and it is of importance, and the legacy is really rich and should be talked about and preserved. So that is just one of the things that we strive to do and ensure that we are caring for the home properly and caring for the history. And we also want to have integrity when we manage this resource. And we feel that it is just imperative for us to continue to keep this place safe. And so much so, even during reuse, we have turned down events, turned down overnight stays, because we felt that it was not good stewardship for those that we turned down to come to the place and not be respectful of it. So stewardship is of great importance to us. And of course, none of this would be possible if we didn't have those folks that help us. And one of our biggest partners is Oklahoma Black Living Legacy. And this is a nonprofit that has been a friend to the mansion. They try to help with whatever needs arise. If we need some preservation effort, they are there for us. When we have our community engagements, they volunteer and they give support. And we'll be there supporting on February the 24th and 25th at the quilt exhibit and open house. But they have just been a wonderful support to the mansion. And their goal is to make sure that places like the mansion or the Slaughter Mansion are preserved and the stories told and our artifacts protected. So it's a great organization. As you can see, if you want to know more about it, you can use the QR code there. We also would be amiss if we didn't mention the support that we receive from different organizations in Oklahoma City, especially the Oklahoma History Center. From the very beginning, even when Dr. Blackburn was the director, and on to the new director, Thompson, they have just been wonderful and have given us whatever we need. They've let us go through their archives and find and mine information. The Oklahoma Historical Society has just been wonderful. They will answer all of my amateur and silly questions because, as I said, I am an amateur preservationist and there's a lot that Marq and I don't know, and so we have needed help, and they have been there, and especially the SHPO. So they have just been a great support for us. Preservation Oklahoma, whenever I did not know, understand what it took to get the home on the registry. At the time, it was David Pettyjohn. He assisted me and championed the mansion. and found funds for us, explained how we needed a researcher, helped us find a researcher. And so that is just really warming to the heart when you have these organizations that are willing to give you information and to help you make it through preserving, because it is not an easy task. I want to thank also the Coltrane Group, who allowed the mansion to use their Colored Memories exhibit last year. It was just amazing, the number of folks that came through to the open house. And of course, the Alliance for Oklahoma Economic Development in Oklahoma City, the Progress OKC, and the OMFA, they all have been very supportive to the mansion and in helping us keep the mansion alive, keep it going, and in some aspects to help us keep it prosperous so it can keep going. I have really run out of things to say. If you all have any questions, I'm sure Christina can help with that. If you have any questions of me, or if I missed something that you wanted to know about, please use my email address, doris@themansionokc.com, and email me and I'll answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Doris. I really appreciate you sharing the story of this property and of your work to preserve it. So thank you very much.